If you were a gamer in the 80s or 90s, you likely remember how popular the Ninja Turtle video games were. You had your friends over to join you in some two-player co-op. Those were fun times. Released in 1990 for the NES, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, was a port of an arcade game in 1989. The game is largely based on the popular 1987 cartoon. You can choose between one or two players as your favorite turtles: Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, or Raphael. The story is pretty simple. Channel 6 News is on fire, the turtles leap off the building, Mike falls on his ass and head inside. Now you'll notice that each turtle looks the same with no differences in attack power or range. I personally like this as you won't have to worry about choosing the best turtle to play to beat the game. Heck, even Raph, who's known for having the shortest range in later games, has the same exact reach as his brothers. This game is unlike the original NES game where you're sadly unable to switch turtles at any point during gameplay. But like I said, all turtles play exactly the same and you're probably going to play as your favorite turtle to really care. The gameplay is your standard beat 'em up. You walk through straightforward hallways and fight enemies such as the Foot Soldiers, Mousers, and Roadkill Rodneys. A noticeable complaint against this game is that you're mostly fighting Foot Soldiers, as in almost always Foot Soldiers. There are a variety of them that come through different colors and attacks, which makes things interesting when it comes to strategy, but it's still noticeable as you progress through the game. Dealing with Foot Soldiers can be a huge pain. These guys will easily get cheap hits on you, even if you try to jump kick them in the air only to knock you back. Now those of you that grew up with the game likely know this, but for those of you who don't, the best way to ensure that you stay alive is to use the special attack where if you're pressing A and B on an NES controller, you'll do a strong swing that will KO an enemy in one hit. It may make the game a bit too easy for you, but it's recommended with how challenging this game is. I'm not ashamed to admit that I use the Konami code, which gives you 9 lives. Let's be honest, after this review, if you give this game a shot, you're likely going to use the Konami code too. Now graphically, the NES game doesn't hold a candle to its original arcade counterpart. In fact, the arcade version has a lot more going for it. Smooth animation, music, sound quality, and 4-player co-op. So what makes this game still stack up on its own merits? I would say there are a lot of good compromises for this version. For an NES game, the graphics look very good, and for one of the later beat 'em up games on the NES, it still holds up to this day in my opinion. I'm a little biased when it comes to NES games, but it looks really good here. The first stage, where you have fire in the foreground, where if you go down and walk in the fire, you can't take damage. I actually really like the Pizza Hut product placements advertised in some of the stages. You'll notice on the original box art, the game was packaged with a free pizza coupon for Pizza Hut. Yeah, even product placements existed back then. The game really pushes the NES hardware's graphical fidelity, which unfortunately results in some bad flickering. It's definitely noticeable, but never to the point where it impedes my gameplay. And the music is a fast-paced 8-bit funky good jammin' soundtrack. That didn't sound corny. The beats are definitely faster than the original arcade release. Two of the levels, such as the sewer stage and the highway stage where you're riding on a motor skateboard, have entirely different tracks than their original arcade counterparts. That alone, I think, makes the NES version have its own unique soundtrack. The biggest addition exclusive to the NES port is that it's got 2 brand new stages. You have a snow level where you must avoid snowplows and snowman that shoots missiles, and you have a stage later in the game where you're in a dojo themed room where you have to fight hunchback foot soldiers with kunai, scorpions with lasers, and tiger paintings coming to life. Both of these stages have 2 bosses exclusive to this game. A polar bear named Tora from the ice stage, and in the dojo you fight a shogun with a spear whose head flies off. I think the developers thought that this game was made for kids in mind. Speaking of the bosses, this game is no cakewalk when it comes to fighting these guys. Some players use strategy to fight the bosses and it may work for them, but I've applied these to myself and I just couldn't get any of these strategies to work. Because these bosses are unpredictable and don't leave a lot of room to avoid them. They usually attack you in a split second upon reaching contact. You fight your classic villains from the TV show like Rocksteady, Bebop, Krang, and Shredder. Shredder was probably the most difficult for me. One of his attacks where he shoots electric rays at you changes you to a baby turtle. You lose a full life if this happens. I got hit a lot. As someone who's played both the arcade and NES versions, I would say the bosses are a lot more challenging here. The only difference between the versions boss-wise is that in the parking lot stage you fight against a mutated Fly Baxter Stockman, whereas in the arcade version you fight Bebop and Rocksteady together. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, despite its noticeable flaws, is still a fun and comfortable beat 'em up on the NES. I would say it's aged rather well, though your mileage may vary if you're into NES games. The music is great, very faithful to the cartoon. There's a variety of level themes, and while it's lacking in enemy variety, there's still enough in this game to keep you mildly entertained. I'd say give this game a shot. You may even learn why TMNT games were so popular back in the day. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, leave a like and comment, and if you want to see more, click that subscribe button for notifications on when I upload my next video. Take care.